And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's ease into the fourth professional session. We have an excellent lineup of speakers and an equally illustrious moderator. Let me invite on stage Rear Admiral Shaul Hoev, Dr. Do Tan Hai, and Rear Admiral Romel Jude Ong. Ladies and gentlemen, please give our speakers a big hand as they come upon stage. Along with them, I invite the moderator, Ms. In-Joo Yoon. Please keep the applause going as they come up on stage, please. With all our panelists on stage, I now hand over to the session chair, Ms. In-Joo Yoon. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am In-Joo Yoon from Korea Maritime Institute. It's an honor to be here listening to experts, ideas, thoughts all over the world. So I'm very grateful to National Maritime Foundation for having me here. As a moderator, I have found out that we do not have enough time, so I don't want to waste our time for introducing our panelists here. You will look up this conference booklet on page 18, 40, and 45 for their bios and abstracts. As a moderator, I was not asked to provide this kind of slides, but I found out that yesterday the gentleman, moderator, I think, in the morning session provided his slides. It was very helpful to understand the session, so I made by myself last night very quickly. So I hope that it will help this session. I would like to contribute to this session with my academic perspective and maybe some civilian perspective and Northeast Asian perspective, because our panelist has much more experience in defense-oriented and foreign relations-focused backgrounds. So here we go. Our topic today is blue economy and CUI, critical underwater infrastructure. This is the main points of my talks. So this is it, undersea cable. I hope you will find your location and neighboring location to see how it is vulnerable if there is any attack on them. The history of submarine cables dates back to the telegraph cables of 1850s. And their importance grew significantly in the mid-2000s with the widespread of internet. And by the 2010, they emerged as a key security issue. We have a Convention for the Protection of Submarine Telegraph Cables in 1884. It's not 1984. And we also have United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea in 1982. And all of us know that it is not fair enough to cover the cable issues in terms of maritime security. And what kind of type and function do we have? You can think of data, electricity, and energy and other resources using cable. Mostly, I'm going to focus on communication and data cables because some of us have international pipelines for energy and other resources, but most of us have communication and data cables. I mean, communication electricity cables. Sorry. And I do believe that Professor Shaul Hoev will touch a little bit of the pipelines issues. Communication cables generally have a built-in redundancy and automatic rerouting system to minimize the disruption. However, even temporary latency can severely impact time-sensitive sectors such as finance, stock trading, and currency exchange. In contrast, power cables are less frequently damaged, but when they are, as we have seen in shutdowns in Europe, the impact can be immediate and widespread. And beyond this kind of transmitting data and electricity, submarine cables also have military implications, including underwater acoustic surveillance and intelligence interception. Hydrographic surveys for cable installation, repair, and maintenance fall under marine scientific research. So managing survey data and controlling vessel access and personnel access are critical national security concerns. Let's have a look at future demand. I would like to highlight on AI and renewable energy. The demand for submarine cables is expected to increase sharply. In telecommunication, data transmission needs will surge with the expansion of AI applications. Likewise, the demand for electricity transmission will grow alongside renewable energy development, especially solar power and offshore wind power. And what kind of risks do we have? First, accidental risks. I mean, by anchors, trolls, dredging. And second one is natural risks. What I mean by natural is natural environment, earthquakes, cyclones, typhoons. Third one, criminal risks, too obvious. Last but not least, gray zone activities, including surveillance and other seabed mapping for future exploits. This is a Korean case. I would like to share some vulnerabilities that we have. Korea faces main vulnerabilities regarding its submarine cable network. First one is geographic concentration. As you can see on the map, over 80% of cables are clustered along the southern coast, particularly around Busan, where I am from. Second one, lack of redundancy. There are limited overlapping or alternative routes to ensure continuity. Third one is connectivity risks. Our most international connections are with the geopolitically sensitive countries in a different way, such as China, Japan, and Taiwan, which also lie in high seismic zones. So how do we protect? I would like to suggest a multi-stage security response. We need to detect, defend, and when there is any problem, diagnose, deploy things, ships and equipment, and even deter. I would like to thank where you are, Dr. David Brewster from Australia. He rightfully pointing out that deterrence has been neglected in our discussion on maritime security related to marine cables. Oh, let me touch a little bit. Okay, so in the prevention stage, continuous monitoring, patrols, and early warning systems are essential because many gray zone operations are involved. Coordination between the Navy, Coast Guard is crucial domestically and internationally. In the stage of response, rapid cooperation between private sector, private companies which own and operate cables, and government authorities is key for damage mitigation. And in the recovery stage, given the international nature of cable networks, close coordination with relevant countries is vital for timely repair and restoration. I have a few more slides for our panelist country. These are a kind of recently made alternative routes. First one is blue ramen cable, starting from Italy and France, went through Egypt, Israel, and to India. Second one, IEX and IAX. It's India-Europe Express and India-Asia Express. It's all connected from Europe to Asia. This is newly built. And next one is Asia Direct Cable. In my understanding, it covers already existing Vietnam's cables. So it goes up to Japan. And we have another big one. It's Asia, it's called Asia United Gateway East, but I cannot have the map yet. It's ongoing. So I welcome all of you to the world of blue economy and critical underwater infrastructure. Let's dive into the presentations. Thank you.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank my friend, Vice Admiral Chuan, and the chairman, Admiral Singh, for inviting us. Unfortunately, last year we were invited, but as you know, Israel is a 2 years campaign with 7 fronts, and exactly at the day of the conference, there was attacks by Iran of missiles, and all the airline canceled their flight to Israel. Other details about this war, we had casualties of 2,000 civilians and 900 soldiers. We displaced about 170,000 civilians from the north border and the south border, and more than 140,000 missile rockets, AUV, fire against Israel. So yesterday, when there were discussion about resilience, about all such things, I was wondering why I was not invited to participate, but later I came to the conclusion that looking to the future, speaking about blue economy is a better idea to do it. So this is the content of my presentation, and I would like to say what is the term of a cooperative regional capacity and building capability enhancement mean, even though I think that Admiral Chauhan explained it in depth. Then I'll go about recent geopolitical changes in the Eastern Mediterranean, because if you would like to have capability building, you have to evaluate what is the situation here. Then I'll come to the blue economy as a crucial component of maritime security. I spoke with Professor Boiger about it, and later I'll try to do it with his staff as well. Then I'll go to Israel and the blue economy and development of the maritime resources in the Eastern Mediterranean. I would like to take the the Eastern Mediterranean as gas forum as an example of capability building, even though we face a war of 2 years. And then I would like to speak about the IMEC, the Indian Middle East Europe corridor, which I think brings with it a lot of blue economy. And later to speak about decarbonization. As you know, the shipping industry is contributing to what we have in the atmosphere with the CO2 and how to minimize it, and some other conclusions and reflections. So I'll not pause to speak about the cooperative regional capacity building and capability enhancement, because I think this issue was discussed and in depth was understood. I would like to go here and to speak about our Middle East or Eastern Mediterranean countries, and you can see here the emoji is not, he is not smiling because the situation is currently not good. Not because of the war, but when we are speaking about the countries in this region, namely Greece, Cyprus, Turkey, Israel, and the global south, Egypt, Libya, and Syria, a lot of conflicts arriving here, not necessarily with war, but speaking about the fall of the last event that we have since the Hamas attack, the Assad regime in Syria, the Hezbollah defeat, geopolitical and legal backdrop in the EEZ dispute, especially between Turkey, Cyprus, Greece, Israel, and Egypt. It's also a drawback. And Greece, Turkey versus Greece and Cyprus as a time rivalry, Egypt as a key player in the region, but also in economic turmoil, and Turkish ambition, not only in the Eastern Mediterranean, you can see it also in the Indian Ocean. So let's go here and speak, and as I discuss it with my student, usually when I'm speaking about maritime security, they are going to the southwest corner and they are speaking about national security, sea power, and that's it for them. Here and today, I would like to concentrate on the northeast corridor and to speak about economic development and later about blue economy, which is a sub-subject on this area. I think that we are a miracle that the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science was declared, even though international organizations and fora are declining in their efforts and influence. But I think that it is a good idea to see what is the situation and to say what we should emphasize on this decade. And we are speaking about the decade of the ocean science. It was declared, and I think it tried till Trump administration come to a power. They tried to distribute it among all the country, and there was a conventional wisdom agreement that we should approach this issue and approach it as soon as possible. Then I'll come to the blue economy. And you see that blue economy is a subsection of economic development. And one of the things that you should bear in mind when we are speaking about blue economy is the sustainability, because the blue economy refers to sustainable and exclusive use of the ocean. Sustainability is the name that we should bear in mind when we are speaking about it. And there are diverse issues that when we are speaking about blue economy, and we are speaking about long term, because when you deal with such an issue, the development, the idea, and all such things, it takes you a lot of time. So, which are the areas that are included in blue economy? You can see all this area, but I would like to emphasize about the shipbuilding industry. I would like to emphasize about water, which is a very severe problem in the Middle East among the countries, Jordan, Syria, Egypt, and other places. So I'll teach about it also. And when I'm speaking about the shipping industry, I'll touch about decarbonization and how to approach it. So where is Israel? I think that Israel recognized that blue economy is very important subject, and in 2022, the Israeli National Center for Blue Economy and Innovation established in Haifa, and it's also a blue tech to address the offshore infrastructure challenges. There was a governmental resolution, even though not with much resources, but allocated to it, but also to mention that Eilat, which is in Gulf of Aqaba, in the Red Sea, they mentioned the Ministry of Agriculture working to develop Eilat as a Gulf Sea at Aqaba, to international seafood production hub, research, development, and to see what you can have from marine agriculture. And by January 2024, our institute was established in Haifa University, but we have decided to go to the blue economy because it's more applicable science and not theoretical science to deal with this issue. We changed a little bit our name, but all the researchers and the research affiliator came with us, and you can see what are the area and disciplines that the Blue Economy Center, the national, Israeli National Blue Economy Center is taking care of them. And as I mentioned, I'll speak about carbon, port and coastal, water, and which are the things that I would like to mention. Even though we were in 2 years in war, and this war affected Israel very much, I think that you should look what are the agreement, the regional agreements that survive such a war. And if you find such an institution, such a collaboration that stay in the war, work within countries, is the Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum. I can't say that it worked for all the time, because when we were attacked, a missile attack, Sometimes we have to stop the activity of the facilities, but most of the time it works. And this Eastern Mediterranean gas forum that was established is producing gas from the hydrocarbon fields that in Israel, as well as in Cyprus. And you can see through the line, it exported it to Egypt, and via Egypt, also to Jordan, sometimes to Syria, to Lebanon, we don't know. So if you can see such kind of a forum that during a war that extends for 2 years is still working and trying to do it for the benefit of these countries. And the last news is that Egypt signed a new agreement worth $35 billion that will export gas to them, even though the stability in the region and the situation is not so good, as well as the relationship between Israel, you should say such, we are speaking with enhanced capacity and capabilities. This is a good example how to work in the Middle East, even though we have all these problems. So another issue is the IMEC, the Indian Middle East Europe Corridor Initiative, which in the summit of September 23 was declared by the countries. It's a very ambitious one, but I think that when we speak, and I try to follow our French speaker, our German speaker, try to speak about their participation in the Aspide operation, in the Prosperity Guardian operation. They didn't succeed to raise the threat of the blockade in the Red Sea. And the port of Eilat in the Gulf of Aqaba now is not operating. And when we are speaking securing line of communication, we didn't succeed to do it. Not US Navy, neither the European mission for it. So what is the lesson learned? Yesterday, when we spoke about redundancy, I think that you should bear in mind what is a redundancy to this, let's say, route through the Red Sea. Also, the Belt and Road Initiative is very dependent on it, but not working. So I think that this initiative, if it will go in the direction that this country decided, and if the money, the budget for it will come, I think it will give us redundant, and it will give within it also some kind of advantages. If you know how to use such a railroad, and besides such a railroad, to have an industry that will bring some blue economy to the region, it will be a good advantage. So it will be also advantage to Europe, which is suffering very much with what is going in the Red Sea. Speaking about what is the rationale after it, and the rationale is to use railroad, electric railroad, because if we would like to fight about the carbonization or to do decarbonization, this is the case. As a sea driver, I know that when you are speaking about a container ship, is the most efficient way to transport from one port to another port. The only problem is choke points, Suez Canal, Bab el-Mandeb Strait. But if you have a railroad, which you can ship through it in a very fast way, and by speaking about containers, it might be beneficial also for the countries. So speaking about it, and you can have the distances when we are speaking to round the Cape of Good Hope and to do it through the Suez Canal. And here we have only to do it through a railroad, traveling at 120 kilometers. It is 40% faster than doing it. However, we have some problem, and I'll try to touch on it later. When you have such a railroad, you can have by it also some kind of infrastructure. I spoke with Adani CTO, and he told me, look, this initiative is not profitable unless it will have some kind of a hydrogen pipeline communication pipeline, and all such a thing. And I'm speaking here about hydrogen. You know that hydrogen is the gas of the future. The problem, when you ship it with ships, you have to do it with a liquidite. Here, with a low pressure, you can have it. And when we have the amount of sun that we have in the Saudi Arabia, Jordan, we can reuse by photovoltaic electricity that we can have it as a green energy. So that's one of the issues that we are speaking about IMEC and green energy, and this is an advantage to us. The problem when you are speaking about it is how to harmonize or the transportation, because if you are shipped from Mumbai or Mumbai, container ship, it will come to the United Arab Emirates, and then you have to disembark it. And then is the procedures dying in United Arab Emirates. And then it's go to Saudi Arabia, and it's stop, and with all this paperwork. And Jordan and Israel, it is no way to be efficient compared to the ship. So to harmonize it, we should deal with also some innovative, it is a software, but you can see that India address it also with the United Arab Emirates, and they have the Maitri Agreement, enabled seamless trade movement between India and the Middle East port. However, this initiative is limited between India, United Arab Emirates, and I think that we have to do it through all the way from India to Haifa port. So I'm speaking about the IMEC as one of the things that can blow our economy by all the ingredients that I mentioned here. Another issue is our relationship with our neighbor. We have water. Israel is very advanced in a desalination facility, in how to use its sewage system and to have to purify the sewage system and to use it for agriculture. Georgians suffer from a lack of water, and we can offer them to provide them with a water from our desalination facility, allocated one of our desalination facility for Jordan, and they will do it, and with what we are speaking about energy, so photovoltaic, they can bring us energy with this. And when we are speaking about transportation, the distance between the northern part of Jordan, which is the most populated area, to Haifa is 160 kilometers, and to Aqaba in the Gulf of Eilat is more than 300 kilometers. So it will be profitable for them. So speaking about water, energy, transportation, blue economy, it is one solution. People used to come to me and to say, look, what you are speaking about, it's not economical, it's not happening. To do what a feasibility study, I am going to the private sector. Private sector should see if there is a profitable. And I found that they are doing, according to the initiative of the I2U2 that we had with there are trucks doing such a thing, usually during the war. And they can enlarge the capacity to 2,000 trucks per day from Jordan to Israel. The only problem is security regulation. But they are doing it, and I think this is a good sign for us that this is the case. About the greenhouse, we are trying to do it, and you have all the elements with the various aspects of how to decarbonize. And we are very proud that our Israel contribution is by our national zinc company, that out of their 46 new vessels, 28 will be propelled by the LNG power. So speaking about Israel zinc ship service involvement, they are trying to do it, even though I think that LNG is not the ultimate solution. I think that going to SMR in a ship, it is the ultimate solution to deal with it. Another initiative is what we call the move to minus 15 degrees. And last but not least is green corridor that we are trying to support it, even though in the Mediterranean, only the states that are doing it is Spain and the other countries in the region not doing it. So conclusion, the Middle East has been experiencing violent turmoil and ongoing instability, which has also impacted Eastern Mediterranean countries. The IMEC initiative can enhance regional collaboration and improve the blueing of Israel economy as well as those of its neighbors. And the delay of the IMO net zero a week ago framework disappointing for the move to the minimal 15 degrees. And programs that enhance Israel blue economy and rebuild Gaza, it's also some of the perspective. So I think that speaking about the blue economy, even though the Middle East is not stable, wars and all such things, it gives us some prospect for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Would you like to go ahead? Yeah. Thank you, Professor Chow. He mentioned lots of interesting things about blue economy. Maybe some of the contents are new to you, but it was very interesting. He mentioned a lot of things like East Mediterranean Gas Forum, and solar and green hydrogen export, and exchanging energy for water. I did not mention about like water or energy resources, but he rightfully pointed out that it is also another important critical underwater infrastructure. Thank you. I invite Dr. Hai.
Namaskar and very good morning. And from the onset, I would like to thank the National Maritime Foundations and also the Indian Navy for inviting me for this prestigious forum. Although I stay here for quite a while, but for the first time, I stand here as the speaker. So I think that it's very important both opportunities to share the Vietnamese perspective on the issue that also very new to us. Also, I take this opportunity to thank Admiral Karamba Singh and also Vice Admiral Parip Chauhan Bilu for these opportunities as well. For us, I think that it's very timely and important topic because Vietnam is a fast-growing economy and of which the critical infrastructures, particularly the submarine communication cables and offshore energies platforms, is very important for its economy, national security, and also the digital ambition. Just give a context for that, that the Vietnamese digital economy experienced very high speed of growth and projected by 28%, about nearly 30% annually, and forecast to become the second largest in Southeast Asia by 2025 this year. So overall, the digital economy of Vietnam is expected to be a major contribution to the GDP with target of 30% by 2020, by 30. So from the level of 12% in 2023. So our energy needs also growing, and with the power consumption projected to grow with the rate of 10 to 12% per year. So in that, I mean, the subsea infrastructures are very important as an underpinning of the national development strategies and projections. So with that, my presentation was structured into 5 elements. We talk about the state of critical infrastructures in and around Vietnam, and of course with the key assessment of challenges and risks that I mentioned here and there over the last 2 days. There's also the existing cooperative frameworks, especially within Vietnam and so the ASEAN framework and beyond, the gaps, and of course a proposed step to bolster the regional capabilities, and at the same time some thoughts about the Indian role and contributions in that matter. Now for the first element about the critical infrastructure in Vietnam, and we, before 2005, we have 5 undersea fiber optic cables, and we just recently add one in 2025, and there are projections that we will build up 10 routes more by 2030. So we have 4 landing stations in Vũng Tàu, Da Nang, and Quy Nhơn. But the problem is that since late 2023 until 2023, so there's a major troubles with some critical point of time that all 5 cable system have trouble. That lost about 75% of capacity. And it's not the single one incident, but it's repeated throughout 24 and 25. In June 2024, 3 out of the 5 were down. And we also noted about 15 incidents annually. And it also mattered to us that the time for reparations is quite high. It's about 40 days plus. And it's not a problem for us before. It was about 20 years ago, we talked about what happened in the South China Sea, we talked about the ship and thing. But now it seems that the security concerns are expanding. Not only from the gray zone activities, what happened on the surface, what happened in the space, and now the undersea domain is increasingly a frontier for, as mentioned, the security, national security, and also the diplomacies as well. So we plan, by 2020, we have 10 cable routes more, but of course it's also critical as compared to other countries in the region, we're still lagging behind. So with that situations that we need to improve more on our capacity, also capabilities, to make sure that we are not cut off from the global network. And we also have 2 other systems under subsea substance with the offshore gas pipeline and energy infrastructures. And we have a number of offshore oil and gas exploitations, and there are 5 major gas pipeline systems of the southern coast of Vietnam that is critical for the supplies of gas for our power plant. And also we also established 6 submarine power cables to the nearshore islands. And we frequently see that the safety corridor of that cables are intruded by different kind of vessels and entities. Now, the key risks and challenges to, of course, Vietnam, also other Southeast Asians as well. We have mostly the accidental damage. Of course, the incidents happen, but we haven't seen the clear evidence of the human error. And kind of temptation on that, but mostly the accidental damage. South China Sea is one of the most busiest waterways. So with about 80 and 90,000 vessels annually passing by, so there are clear dangers of the ship's anchor, but also that it very heavily area for the fishing activities, and with the trollings and active and uses explosives, that would keep also the potential danger for the subsea cable system. And of course, not to mention that natural disasters also very important kind of risks to the system in the way that the region is situated on the Pacific Rings of Fire, and in the past earthquake of Taiwan 2006, also several system of subsea cables. And the second source of risks come from the geopolitical tensions. Of course, we have the fragmented jurisdiction. We have some country claim about 80% of the South China Sea under its jurisdiction. And also it be complicated by the greater intense of great power rivalry. Now that it results in the direct implication to the managements and um, the, um, the, the conservation, the security of the subsea system in the way that the effort to delay, there's efforts that try to delay the permits for cable maintenance. Also, that happened that the Southeast Asia Japan cable had delayed for several months, and it had later on had to find the rerouting to other route. We also have, there's because of the dispute, so there's a reluctance and the hesitation for the companies to establish and to lay the cable system to this area. And the third sets of challenges for the Southeast Asia is their repair capacity. There's a deficiency, of course. Of course, you know that we have 40 subsea cable system around the world, but only 60 dedicated ship globally. That particularly concern for the Southeast Asia is that the time for recovery is mostly very high. As I mentioned, it's about 40 days plus for any kind of system to be repaired and recover as compared to 15 days in the North America. That in also is very new to us because before that we never thought that the subsea cable could be a point of contentions. And recently, Vietnam, also other Southeast Asian, also approached by United States and also other partners as well, giving the warnings about the use of different types and different sorts of subsea cables. And for Vietnam and other countries, we have the little capability to understand and to assess the full risks related to that system. Because as you know that it's also costly to lay the cable, and it's also take a lot of time for us if we have the problem without speedy recovery. So it becomes the point for policy deliberations and of course also the concern for us. And it increasingly become important for Vietnam. At the same time, it's not only about the security issue, but also very problem for the economic development. Facing that type of challenges, we also have different type of corrective mechanism in the region, try to protect the underwater infrastructures. Of course, ASEAN is very important for us. ASEAN in 2019, they issued the guidelines for strengthening resilience and repair submarine cable, but mostly focus on the reparations, the problems, rather than the comprehensive framework for speedy setup, conservations, and also the recovery of the subsea cables. And also not binding, it's more part of the guideline. And of course, there are more focus and more attention to the underwater infrastructures with the fourth ASEAN Digital Minister meeting in February 2024, and there's a commitment to speed up the connectivities and also to increase the way that we can be connected to each other. The Singapore Declaration in 2024 is committed building inclusive and trusted digital ecosystem, which have been considered as one of the forefront for the regional development and prosperity in the future. And the latest ASEAN Defense Minister meeting in March 2025, so underwater domain awareness could be an area for potential cooperations, because it's after all the countries in the region lack of the maritime domain awareness, especially underwater domain awareness, that is critical for the protections of the subsea infrastructure. Beyond Southeast Asia, we also have a number of international frameworks and partnerships, especially the International Cable Protection Committee, which is also very new to us in many countries when we see the subsea cable become a problem for national security. Of course, we also witnessed the rising of the Quad Partnership for Cable Connectivity and Resilience, Also, there's a more attention in Europe with establishments of NATO critical undersea infrastructure coordination. After all, the protection of subsea cable is now managed under the UNCLOS. And of course, there are regulations and the stipulation over there. But the implementations and the enforcements are rather weak in one way or another. So we identify a number of gaps because it's not an exhaustive list, but there's mostly that mentioned in a range of literatures here and there, and definitely it's become a priority for the region in the way that there are dozens of countries in the region, but we haven't got a comprehensive regional plan so that we can handle the underwater cable system for the sake of the collective, for the community, for the ASEAN community, also for the greater community in the region. The Southeast Asian countries also like the surveillance and domain awareness in the way that there's a lot of effort investing in the naval and coast guard capability, at the same time coping with the gray zone activities that countries like Vietnam and subsequently also we see Philippines and other countries invest heavily in the Navy and other kind of anti-asset and denial. But the underwater domain have not received the adequate attentions in the way, and at the same time the adequate resources to that. And they also mentioned the fragmented responsibility and communications. Even within one country, the CSGAP report also find out that in different countries that different agencies have been handled, that we not really share the same system, so that would prevent the smooth communication between different, even the Southeast Asian country, let alone with the external partners, in the way if we have any problem to handle. And there, of course, insufficient redundancies and backup. Of course, we wish to have more the diversifications of routes, but of course it comes with costs. For particularly the country that want to invest more on other domain for development rather than try to make more diversification in terms of the internet infrastructures. But of course, it can become the security issue, so that would be at expense of other domains as well. Because we also see that the region mostly in the reactive postures, we don't have the proactive approach to the problem, and it's in the focus on peaceful scenarios. Why we have the South China Sea as I think the testing ground for many types of gray zone activities, and now in the underwater domain is gray zone. That is why we lack a lot of capabilities to understand what happened, let alone have the enough system of sensors and things that we can observe and what happened on the ground. And of course, that comes to the strategy and measures to enhance protections. Of course, that also mentioned elsewhere that we need the more comprehensive ASEAN framework. And of course, we need to focus and give the priority for one pillar. Of course, now we have the political, economic, and social, and cultural. So now it's between security and political, and also the economic. So we should have the more comprehensive ASEAN framework, also that would provide the designated national focal agencies, so that we can improve the inter-agency coordination, but also inter-state coordination. There's also the need to enhance the surveillance and underwater domain awareness. That is need the heavy investment, so that open up the space for cooperation with the extra regional partners. There's also the need to increase resilience, to increase redundancy, also diversity of routes. And there's the need to cooperate with each other so that we can build the whole regional system rather than it just focus on national one. because you know that we do the effort on our own is you also way more costly. And the need also cost for the most of the cyber security, the security of the landing station, and how we country can make sure that you can understand and have capacity. Not the issue that you don't want to put your faith into any single partner, right? The dependency is critical. So it's a struggle for us to choose what type of system we want, what kind of one you prefer, without not at the expense of the others. So I think that is become the policy problem for the country like Vietnam and also other Southeast Asian countries as well. Of course, there are need certain way to increase the collaborative exercise and training, but with whom, right? Which is the main key partner with the key system, with the key supplier, and that is very important for us to leverage the external support into that. So that comes, the Indian the expectation on the part of India that play greater role in working and also collaborating with the Southeast Asian country, because India is situation in very important position between the Europe and also Asia. And also it had capacity and capabilities for the MDA, and of course it will be part of the Quad membership. So I think that in that we view India a very important and increasingly important partner in the region that could provide these regional country with the MDA capabilities. And of course we're also considering the possibility that would contribute and be part of the system, part of the IFCIOA. I think that is very beneficial for Vietnam. Of course, I'm not entirely work for government. It's my own personal observation. But I always think that Vietnam should be send the officers to the IFCIOA. So we should move to beyond the Southeast Asia and also the South China Sea. Of course, India also provides some kind of route diversification and infrastructure resilience to provide. Of course, many people mentioned about the capacity training and the training centers. I think that is the very missing field for further cooperation between Southeast Asia and ASEAN. And of course, that also the partnership between, also we mentioned many times about the ASEAN centrality, but I think that Quad has become important actor and mechanism in the region. So I think the partnership between Quad and ASEAN, and also ASEAN also other partners as well. So ASEAN should play a greater role to connecting different type of supplies and partnerships, so that it could make sure that the region is resilient, is safe, and prosperous for everyone. With that note, I would like to end my presentations here and thank all the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hai. He mentioned about we cannot prevent everything in advance, but when it happens, there's a problem of delaying permits for cable maintenance and repair capacity deficiency. And I think ASEAN mechanism for multilateral cooperation is more specific than any other ICPC or NATO or some Quad things. And still, he also pointed out about lack of a reactive, we tend to have like reactive posture. So maybe Rear Admiral Ong, he can touch a little bit more about that. Please, stage yours.
While Admiral Ong joins us on stage, I request everyone in the audience to once again check their phones. Please keep them muted at all times.
Good morning. First off, in behalf of Professor Dindo Manhit of Strathspey ADR, we'd like to thank the leadership of the National Maritime Foundation and of course the Indian Navy for inviting us and hosting us in this forum. More than a few months ago, our very own foreign ministry called me up and asked me if I could talk about submarine cable. I said no. First off, it's not my expertise, and I haven't covered that in my lectures. So I promised to look around in Manila and look for an alternative Fast forward to today, this is my third presentation on submarine cables, and I have a fourth one on November 12th. So as far as Manila is concerned, I'm the resident submarine cable guy for the meantime, and you have to bear with me. Now, let me lay first the predicate before we go to the main topic. My own personal circumstance, I think, reflects the situation for the Philippines and perhaps for other countries similarly situated. Submarine or cable security or cable protection is something fairly new, and it's something we need to work on. Levity aside, our battle rhythm in the Philippines is focused on, of course, our big neighbor to the north, and we deal with them on a 24/7 basis on two fronts, in the South China Sea, in our exclusive economic zone, and of course in our very own domestic political situation. So we face them through gray zone operations in our exclusive economic zone and foreign interference in our domestic politics. And if you look at the social media space in the Philippines, it is a battle space. We deal with disinformation all the time, all day, all night. Having said that, the question of submarine cable security is not, I believe, an issue of capacity and capability. We're not there yet, at least for the Philippines. For our situation, we first need to look at developing awareness. Awareness among our political leadership, among our policymakers, and of course, our resource managers who will need to invest money to actually develop the capacity and capability in the immediate future to deal with this kind of maritime security challenge. As a Navy guy, the question that I pose to myself is this a maritime security issue, which means we deal with it as an infrastructure, a protection of infrastructure, or in the other side, is it a naval problem, which means is this seabed warfare? And that is, I think, something that we need to resolve ourselves, because the approach will follow through, the follow through will depend on how you look at it and from which lens you look at it. Having laid the predicate, allow me now to read my prepared manuscript. Good morning, esteemed colleagues, defense partners, and fellow advocates of maritime resilience. It is a privilege to speak to you this morning to deal with how do we secure the invisible lifelines of our digital world, the submarine cables beneath our seas. These cables are often overlooked in strategic discourse, yet they are foundational to our sovereignty, our economies, and our deterrence posture. Today, I invite you to see them not merely as an infrastructure, but as strategic terrain. Submarine cables carry a substantial percentage of global data traffic. That includes financial transactions, military communications, and cloud services. They are the arteries of modern civilization. A single cable cut can disrupt stock exchanges, isolate command centers, and fracture diplomatic communications across continents. In short, cable sabotage, or in a way, cable accidents, is not just vandalism. It is a form of digital blockade. And yet, these cables remain dangerously exposed, especially in contested maritime zones like the South China Sea, Taiwan Strait, and of course, the Red Sea. So we are all aware of the fairly recent incidents. In 2025, the sabotage in the Taiwan Strait, targeting cables linking Taiwan to the Penghu Island. In 2024, a Russian-linked shadow fleet, which disrupted NATO connectivity in the Baltic Sea. And of course, in the Red Sea, simultaneous damage to 3 cables, severing digital ties between Asia, Africa, and Europe. Are these isolated events or isolated accidents? Or are they part of a broader pattern of asymmetric threats that blur the line between peace and conflict? Repairing a damaged cable is not a quick fix. Restoration time averages 40 to 55 days, In the case of Taiwan, I think it took around 170 days. Global repair fleets are insufficient. Permitting delays in access restrictions in conflict zones further complicate the response. And in the Indo-Pacific, where maritime disputes are layered and persistent, these delays can be strategically exploited. Moreover, cable landing stations, often located in coastal provinces, like in the case of the Philippines, in Batangas, La Union, or Davao, are vulnerable to both physical intrusion and perhaps even cyber attacks. These are soft targets in a hardening world. So what must we do? I have 4 proposals which are basically aspirational in nature and maybe sort of a jump starts us into looking at recommendations or future approaches to this security challenge. First, we must elevate cable security to the level of strategic deterrence. That means deploying perhaps technologies or capacities that we normally use for anti-submarine warfare and repurpose them for maritime security. We need to look at hardening the cable landing stations against hybrid threats, be it cyber, be it physical sabotage, or what else. And we need to integrate cable protection into naval and coast guard activities or patrols, and in the case of Philippines, in junctions such as in Luzon Strait, Palawan Passage, and in our exclusive economic zone facing South China Sea. Second is we may build coalitions. In the case of ASEAN, we have the ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting Plus, which can cover other countries who are our dialogue partners into the conversation. We have the ASEAN Navy Chiefs Meeting, which can allow observers from other navies to participate. We have the fairly new ASEAN Coast Guard Forum, barely, I think, 3 or 4 years of age. And this is something that we can look at. On the other side of the coin, I ask myself, if we pursue this line of approach, are we not securitizing the problem and thereby antagonizing our big neighbor to the north instead of integrating them as part of the solution? Perhaps the alternative business model would be RICAAP. That's a mechanism based in Singapore that I know of that focuses on armed robbery at sea and piracy. And this is basically private sector led. Perhaps a mechanism for this type of activity does not mean that the government need to be upfront, front and center into the solution. Maybe it can be private sector led, but duly supported by government agencies in this type of activities. In that way, at least for us in the region of Southeast Asia, that would allow China to be more comfortable in sitting on the table and discussing cable security responsibly. We must capacitate public-private partnerships and have them institutionalized, bringing together telecom giants as well as government agencies, navies, and coast guards. Remember, the owner of these capabilities or capacities is not government, it's private sector. So part of the capacitating and capability building that we need to do is to actually capacitate private sector to be more open to collaboration with government in dealing with this type of challenges. Because at the end of the day, the one that will solve this problem is not government, it is private sector, particularly in case of repair or damages of cables, or in making sure that these facilities are actually resilient. We must capacitate interagency bodies within our respective countries. For example, in the Philippines, we have the National Maritime Council that covers maritime security issues from a whole of government approach. But maybe we need to elevate it to the level of whole of nation approach to bring in private sector into the conversation and part of the solution. Third is we must shape norms. My fellow panel has already discussed several laws or protocols in place since the 1900s, but perhaps for ASEAN at least, we need to localize or regionalize these protocols and make them more granular in terms of adaptability, acceptability, and applicability within Southeast Asia. And to make sure that these norms expand the mandate of appropriate bodies like ASEAN or ASEAN Plus institutions to include hybrid threat response. The last one is we must learn to innovate. We have discussed maritime domain awareness in the previous panels, and in this case, maritime domain awareness may need to expand from surface to subsurface. And are we prepared for that? Are our MDA fusion centers geared to actually deal with subsurface anomalies? If not, then that is something that we need to look at as a capability gap across countries. I believe that we need a framework for maritime resilience and strategic deterrence. Submarine cables are the digital lifelines of our time. They connect us not just technically, but politically and symbolically. To protect them is to protect the very idea of sovereignty in the digital age. Let us not wait for the next digital blockade to remind us of what is at stake. Let's act now through cooperation, innovation, and strategic foresight. Because beneath the waves lies not just infrastructure, but sovereignty. Not just cables, but connection. Not just data, but deterrence. Thank you, and good morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Admiral Ong. He introduced the kind of lack of awareness of maritime security challenges in Philippines. And he also used the expression of digital lifeline in terms of sovereignty in contested waters, which is, we need to have a more look on it. And also he mentioned about strategic deterrence at the level of submarine warfare. And he emphasized the coalition among ASEAN. And it is also interesting to listen to the kind of new solution, private front and public support mechanism. And institutionalization, global norms, and even interagency mechanism within, the domestic platform. And also for MDAs, not just surface, but subsurface MDAs. There's a lot to discuss today. So now I would like to open the stage to the audience. Okay, maybe gentleman here from Taiwan first.
Hi everyone, I'm Isaac Ling from Taiwan Ocean Affairs Council. Since every speaker has mentioned Taiwan a few times, so I need to echo your opinion. I will share some Taiwan experience with you guys. And as we echoes the moderator In-Joo Yoon said that we face lots of risk on the factors on the submarine cable issues. I will focus on the gray zone factors. Then with Taiwan, such kind of gray zone issues, Taiwan experience has shifted from the accidental and to the deliberate actions, such as they use the ship of convenience or the double vessel, and they will adapt a suspicious like a ship aid. You sometimes the captain was get drunk and driving at the sea. Yeah, maybe he was attending the gala dinner last night as well. And we just want to share that share such kind of actions, and we will want to ask all the speakers to show us, and we have more details on such kind of your perspective, maybe your national practice on such kind of gray zone tactics when you face it, because we have the similar situation, maybe not just from today's Taiwan, maybe tomorrow it will be your country. And would you please share some your perspective for us? And that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. And back there in front first, maybe, and then Takuchi-san.
Hello, Jain. I'm student of Rashtraksha University, and my question is from Admiral Shaurav sir. As you mentioned, IMEC as part of blue economy narrative, given recent geopolitical shifts in the Eastern Mediterranean, how do you see Israel's blue economy partnership aligning with IMEC's maritime corridor, and could similar cooperative models be extended into the broader Indo-Pacific framework? Thank you.
My name is Hideshi Tokuchi. I'm from Japan. First of all, I'm very much grateful to all the three speakers and the moderator for their great talks. My questions, actually I have one set of two related questions to my Vietnamese friend, Dr. Do Tan Hai. You referred to malicious fishing activities as examples of causes of underwater cable disruption, but you didn't name any countries. Of course, we know that Chinese fishing boats are doing those kind of activities, but how about other countries, other littoral countries and external countries' fishing boats? And that's my first question. And the second question is about whether there is any effort or any legal regime to ban or restrict those kind of malicious fishing activities, because seabed trawling and blast fishing, but also and as well as cyanide fishing, those kind of activities affecting marine environment as well. So not only disruption of submarine cables. So could you tell us any legal regime or efforts to ban or restrict those activities?
Thank you. Let's first go the first round, okay? I'm afraid we are running out of time, so maybe we will go from here. Professor Shaw for, yeah.
When I mentioned IMEC, I think I mentioned India as the departure point. But several weeks ago, I was approached by Sri Lanka Institute asking me why Sri Lanka will not be incorporated in this initiative. Israel is not leading this initiative, but I think that as a redundant to when we are speaking about the route through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, through the Suez Canal, and Suez Canal also faces some meteorological effects that jam the canal by a ship. So as a redundant, I can think that it would not be only for India, it can be also for Sri Lanka, it could be also for other Asian states who are dependent on this route. So speaking about this route, currently this is the beginning of the initiative, and the initiative is very complicated, but I think that if it will be realized, it can be a platform for other countries and for redundant. I should mention that India has also terrestrial corridor going from Iran, port of Mangalore, to Central Asia. So having this redundant corridor, whether it's by sea or whether it's by land, I think that it's part of what we are speaking about, connectivity, which is a big problem or big hurdle today, speaking about the threat that we are realizing. May I also say some word about underwater cable, because in Israel we are facing the same problem. Sometimes by regulation you can solve the problem, because if you know that the weak point of undersea cable are the places that we are very close to the shore. This is the place that you can reach them, you can sabotage them by having some regulation that prohibited ship or fisheries to go and to also to tell the Navy to keep that this corridor will not be occupied by these vessels and ship. It's a regulation, no money, but also some kind of a solution. Thank you.
Okay. So maybe Dr. Hai, naming and shaming or any other legal regime?
So first one, the question from Tokushi-san. I think that, of course, that problems are very new to us, and we tend to avoid pointing the finger to anyone else. Of course, every part of that you need the clear evidence, and in that way, we have a couple of incidents that even most of the cables were damaged. So we mostly attributed the problems now for shock. And but we also recognize, as it most of the problem may come from the natural causes. Even this also come from, of course, the trawling activities of the fishermen, and especially also Vietnamese fishermen as well. And also we recognize that some Vietnamese fishermen, they also use explosive. And even we found out one case that the fishermen also steal the section of the subsea cable. They cut it and they try to steal it. I don't know whether they can sell it. So the problem is quite complex. Why we lack the ability to detect and to understand and to gather the evidence. We do have the two cases in 2011. We are sure that there's an involvement of the Chinese ship. That is that one, the word Bingming survey vessels, when we have the cable cutting by the Chinese ship, and one incident with the Viking 2, I think around July 2011, with the cable entangled with the fishing ship. Except that two evidence, we don't see the clear evidence on the intervention on the subsea system. Or maybe we haven't, although we are provided by partners with some size of activities that could be intervened, but we are not convinced yet that is not the case. So far we think that it's still, there are many causes for that, and also we try to study to understand. And we have to make sure that, we don't blame anyone for the activity that are not they're not caused. I think that the second question with regarding to, of course, the legal system. Because subsea cable is difficult one. Of course, one in our territorial waters, we can have the domestic legislatures, right? But beyond the territorial waters, so it becomes very difficult because that we need the regional mechanisms and international one to make sure that we can do anything with that. For the question with regarding to the gray zone, and we are, of course, we know many activities for a long time in the South Chinese Sea could be considered as part of gray zone. But I haven't seen that we see what happened in the submarine cables are part of the gray zone activities. If it would be the part of gray zone, so it's not gray anymore, right? It definitely the interventions about the structures and system. But of course, there are also some part of the legal ambiguity, not ambiguity, but anyway, kind of different type of interpretation, because that some country interpret, the South China Sea as their own territories, right? So that kind of interpretation, that type of application, what they call the expensive, or maybe the stretching of international in that way, that really damaging for the rules-based order that we have. So I think that type of practices and that type of claim, that unlawful claim, should be opposed by everyone, or otherwise you see that you have to ask the permission for every part when you lay the subsea cable in the South China Sea. There's some effort try to enforce and try to materialize the claim. by asking other country permission, by asking for the, oppose, our legitimate authority with regarding to the laying the subsea cable in our waters. I think that one is very clear, so that what we oppose. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who has a question to Admiral Ong, maybe? Is there anyone? Okay, please.
Thank you. Ristian Supriyanto from Indonesia. My question is, number one is you mentioned geopolitical tensions and competition. I think that features quite prominently. But at the same time, we know that regional initiatives, including in ASEAN, the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific, for instance, emphasize blue economy as one of the ways to mitigate or alleviate geopolitical tensions. So my question is, what are your views or optimism about insulating blue economy projects from the wider geopolitical tensions and competition? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. If you recall, in my intervention, I mentioned about actually using a different business model in terms of addressing this. And I gave an example of RICAAP, which is a mechanism, private sector-led, which deals with piracy and armed robbery at sea in Southeast Asia regions. So maybe a similar business model would desecuritize this undertaking and actually allow China to sit on the table and be part of the conversation with ASEAN in terms of actually protecting the cable or the underwater systems. That's why I posed that maybe placing the conversation in the ADMM plus the ASEAN Navy Chiefs meeting or the ASEAN Coast Guard Forum may be a second option, but maybe more of an internal mechanism within ASEAN. But if we want China to be involved and positively involved in this undertaking, maybe a different mechanism, like as I said, RICAAP, would be a better mechanism for that.
So and the question is very interesting, but the practice in what we have seen in the South China Sea for a long time, we try to cooperate so that we can reduce the the competition about, we can manage the dispute better, so we can handle what we can, no, we cannot handle the geopolitical rivalry, but anyway, we try to cooperate so that we could ease, the tensions, but it's very difficult. So the matter here is that when we don't have trust, it's very hard for you to cooperate, because many people would see the cooperation as a vehicle for intrusions, for impositions of rules and things. And especially the cooperation is also difficult because of the imbalance of power. I hear is not about the capabilities, to be exact. It's a country like Vietnam, maybe Philippines, we don't have the capabilities, right? So we receive many offer of cooperations, but whether you're willing to cooperate, especially in the area under jurisdictions, that's the issue. But also we have also another caveat. If we try to securitize everything, that could come at a cost. So now how to balance with the security and non-security, or whether we should securitize. Now even the subsea cable, it could be the security issue, so it comes up with the cost that we have to pay for that. And at the same time, that also leads to another part of dependency, because we don't have this, I know, Indian, a big country will have the technological capability, but for other countries, you don't have that, so you have to rely on one another, and we're not sure that that partner are more secure than others. That's the issue, right? Thank you.
Okay. I am willing to sacrifice my summation time, so is there any burning question? Yes, please.
Good morning to the panel members. Good morning to all the dignitaries. This is Athar Pandey, a postgraduate from Jamia Millia Islamia. My question to the panel is, the submarine data cable about which the panel spoke, is there any kind of pollution-related to the submarine cable resultant of varied wear and tear of these data cable and how it is affecting the marine ecosystem of the Indo-Pacific waters? And what are the measure or what can be the measure or cooperation strategies in regard of marine pollution, specifically to target the data cable pollution, which can be taken by the Indo-Pacific countries affecting to these issues? My second question would be, so how does PNM, the polynodule mining, is affecting the submarine cable damage, and how can the regional group of countries of the Indo-Pacific can address to the issue of marine ecosystem damage due to the PNM mining and data cable damage? Thank you.
This is a long question. Maybe both of you take just one question, one by one, within 5 minutes.
Okay, I think one of the, on marine pollution and both on mining, I think this needs to be a discussion going beyond the stovepipes, okay? It should not be a government alone, and it should be private sector and civil society as well, particularly on the issues of marine pollution and, of course, the ill effects of seabed mining. The foundation for that would be allowing the private sector that actually operates these cables and for government to provide the safe space for civil society and the private sector to actually discuss these issues. Okay. The principal knowledge that is required here is actually understanding where are the cables laid, and looking at the impact of that, where the cables are laid in its impact on the environment. Okay.
Thank you. Maybe you take one.
I'm not really the expert on that. I would like to point the finger to Professor Berger, but he's running here somewhere. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm not aware of the very significant ecological environmental damage to the system, because they're there, but is it minimal as compared to other sources of pollution to the marine environment. I mean, for the mining, it's not a problem because, for all the proposed and purported action activity, it will definitely, if it causes any harm, it could be recovered quickly. The problem for submarine cable, because that happened in the area that we are not known and many things that we're not aware of, and also the imbalance of capabilities and technological access. So that worries the decision maker rather than any type of any kind of deliberate actions from that. Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe Professor Shao want to add something?
I think that we have to treat this issue as a holistic issue, because we are taking only the submarine cable as a case. And I think that we have to take it as only one case. There is a submerged infrastructure that include the gas pipelines, that include the electricity cable, that include the other facilities. If you have a buoy in sea that you would like to have some kind of, let's say, energy facilities going to it, you should treat it as the same case. So protection of a submarine cable is only one case in a solution that you can give to all the underwater infrastructure. And I think the solution should be holistic, not only for submarine cables, but to all the infrastructure, underwater infrastructure, including everything.
Thank you. Finally, I'd like to summarize with the 2 takeaways. First one, let's think about that there is a sustainable and innovative way of thinking to economize the maritime security issue and maybe the ocean more generally. And second, we need a cable diplomacy, and especially the more comprehensive regional and global framework in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yoon. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to announce the release of another volume in NMF's flagship publication series, Maritime Perspectives. This one, entitled Maritime Perspectives 2025, Blue Economy and Resilience, highlights the impacts of marine pollution and risks to human health from increasing anthropogenic activities. The editors of this volume are Vice Admiral Pradeep Chauhan, DG NMF, and Mr. John Vachaparambil, Associate Fellow at the NMF. I would like to invite Chairman NMF, Admiral Karambir Singh, onto the stage to join us for the ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, this volume identifies the oceans as an arena with immense opportunities as well as unprecedented challenges. With that, I request everyone on stage to kindly do the honors. Thank you, everyone. I now request Chairman NMF to present tokens of our appreciation and gratitude to all our panelists. Admiral Shaul Khoev, Miss In-Joo Yoon, Dr. Do Tanai, Admiral Rommel Jude Ong. With that, I request all dignitaries on stage to kindly resume their seats in the audience. And as they do so, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking them. Please give them a big hand. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.